Andrew Bridgen, rebel with a cause. Cheers.
I can drink to that.
Do you think you exploded your political career by coming out and saying what you did?
That depends. That's debatable if you think I have a political or have had a political career. The fact that the government will never admit it, but they had to backtrack. So, beginning of December, they wanted to extend the vaccination down to babies of 6 months of age. By the middle of January, well, 25th of January there, only over 50s and the vulnerable, and they'll go further than that. I'm hopefully going to be giving a speech next week on the efficacy of the boosters using the government's own figures. And I think once I've delivered that speech, that should wrap up pretty much the booster programme and the vaccination with mRNA. And not delivered yet, but it's in the pipeline.
And I hear rumours from the corridors of Westminster that, some MPs keep popping up to you and saying, oh, maybe you're not absolutely stark raving mad after all. Is this true?
Well, there has certainly been a change in the temperature. Monday was a one-line whip, so there weren't many MPs in. But Tuesday, 5 or 6 MPs, not your normal suspects, from 3 different parties whose names I will not pass out, but they came up to me and said, you're definitely onto something around the safety and efficacy of these vaccines. Keep going. It was not open public support yet, but if 5 MPs from 3 different parties took the time to come up and say that to me, so yeah, we're winning the hearts and minds. We've already got the public, I think, but we're finally influencing the people who could actually do something to halt the vaccine rollout altogether and then divert funds so we can start looking at sorting out the vaccine damage and the harms.
So what you're hoping and what you think is going to happen is that week after week, after week after week, we're going to start to see, we're going to have revealed more excess deaths, more vaccine harms, and you think, as you say, it's a one-way street. You don't think there's a way of burying this under a carpet, sweeping it away, hiding it, blaming it on statins. You don't think there's... I
sometimes wonder if the government just sit there and think, what is today's excuse or this week's excuse for the excess deaths, whether it's statins or lack of appointments. But I mean, it just doesn't stack up against the numbers. It doesn't stack up against the science. And I think, as I said in my speech on the 13th of December, I think we've sacrificed enough of our citizens already on the altar of ignorance and unfettered corporate greed. And the sooner it stops, the better. I can't stop it on my own. I can only stop it when enough colleagues in the House of Commons, we have a majority, and force the government to stop it. What I think is happening is there's an increasing pressure coming on every MP from their constituents in their inbox. And I would encourage GB News viewers and their friends and family to email their MPs, their elected representatives.
Putting this aside, you're at war with your own party in a way, with the government, because you were saying something and you're saying the government have done this, the government have done that. This is your own political party.
Well, I was warned in a meeting a couple of weeks ago that by a senior colleague who I was trying to recruit to the cause, who told me that I could well be proven right in 20 years' time, rather like the thalidomide. Well, that won't do. And he also said that you need to be aware that you're taking on the most powerful vested interest in the world. Well, for me personally, my vested interest is the health and well-being of my constituents in North West Leicestershire and the wider public.
Because you've done a great job in North West Leicestershire, haven't you? But I mean, let's...
If I do say so myself.
But getting away from...
It's a brilliant place. The people are brilliant. Yeah, we've got the highest economic growth in the country, converted what was probably the poorest seat in Leicestershire in 12 years to the richest. It's the only part of Leicester and Rutland that's above UK average salaries. We build enough houses to keep house prices about 20% less than UK average, so that's the sweet spot. We've also, working with the Conservative-controlled District Council, we've delivered the longest council tax freeze in the history of the UK, 15 years, and we're hoping to do more. So, yeah, we've got 1.2 jobs for every person of working age in the constituency.
So why don't you have
the biggest retained business rates in the country.
Why don't you have the whip?
Because I broke the narrative, and I'm absolutely convinced that I will be vindicated, as will the eminent scientists and doctors who had the bravery to speak out and tell the truth to the public. And as Orwell said, in a time of universal deceit, even the act of telling the truth is seen as revolutionary.
And what do you think the public are going to want once they find out? Should you be? I mean, I obviously have to provide a level of balance. Should you be proved completely wrong? What?
I wish I would be. Honestly, wish
Yeah.
for the well-being of everybody that I was going to be proved complete. Nothing would make me happier than to be proved completely wrong, and I could bow out of politics and say, look, I made a big mistake. I'm out of this, and really, but the world is safe and everything's fine, but I'm afraid that's not the case.
Well, you talk about this, about democracy, you said there was no democracy, but what I found so chilling about what happened in the House wasn't so much the defamatory allegations made against you, it was the fact that you had spoken and you had the standard response to anyone who's asking a legitimate question, which is to be called a racist in some way. And that, in your House of Commons, is chilling, because if you can't have free speech in the House of Commons, you don't have it in the country. And if you don't have free speech, you don't have a democracy, do you?
And we saw the pile-on from the usual suspects. But quite honestly, the Jewish community have absolutely stood up for me. We've got the open letter from 25 of the world's leading Jewish doctors and scientists has gone to Rishi Sunak, demanding that I'm immediately reinstated to the party, dismissing claims of anti-Semitism, and indeed questioning the Prime Minister that, shutting down of free speech in a parliament of elected representatives is the first sign of a totalitarian regime. I'm not as easy to silence as
I've noticed.
As some. Well, what I would notice is, apart from GB News, I mean, I used to do a lot of media mysteriously prior to the 13th of December when I gave that speech. I probably would do, Newsnight once a fortnight, lots of local news, ITV, Sky, Channel 4 News quite regularly. Not been invited on one since.
I wonder why that is. Trying to...
I don't know. Something must have happened.
What happened?
Don't know.
I'm thinking.
I don't know.
You did something.
I did something.
You did something.
Yeah, and I also used to get asked to make a lot of comments on sort of, items in the news of political interest.
So what are you doing as well now? Okay, so...
I'm doing a lot more on social media. So since the 13th of December, my Twitter followers have more than trebled. I'm doing lots of podcasts. I'm going to go and do one this afternoon. I'm doing those, and my reach on social media has ballooned. As I said to Chris Hope, who's just gone to GB News, when he was still the other week at the Telegraph, I've known him there for over a decade, I said, how many newspapers do you sell a day? And he said, about 250,000. I said, well, I don't really need you, do I, to cover my story, because that would be a bad tweet.
Yeah, exactly.
250,000 would be a bad tweet.
Is it the end of the legacy media?
Well, I think there's going to be not only the politicians who've have known what was going on and either didn't stop it when they should have or have allowed it to proceed. I mean, the legacy media are also culpable. They can't say they haven't been told, because I've told them.
Andrew Bridgen, thank you for joining me.
Thank you. I'll finish my coffee now.
Yeah, you can.